frustrating night, really, wasn't it, for the league leaders, Arsenal. They did drop points at home for the first time this season, and that was against Newcastle. Geordie fans, love to hear from you this morning, because for you, actually, a point on the road, especially the Emirates against the league leaders, I think that's a big result. It was goalless in the end. The Gunners move 8 points clear of defending champions Manchester City. If they'd have won, they could have made it 10. But 8 points is still quite a healthy lead. Can they keep hold of it? Now, Arsenal were denied 2 penalties in the second half. Had Mikel Arteta absolutely fuming, didn't it? The first one, Dan Burney seemed to pull Gabriel to the ground by his shirt. Then the next one as well, this was really late on in the game, actually. This was Jacob Murphy, and it looked like handball. This was from a Xhaka cross. Looked like a handball, wasn't deemed to be a handball. Arsenal manager Mikel Arteta, he was asked post-match if one or both should have been given, and he said this.
Both of them. It's not particular. It's a penalty or not a penalty, and it's both penalties. The team was on top of it. We were really chasing it. We really wanted it. You could see that the team was putting everything to take the 3 points, and we lacked that in the final third, and we lacked 2 big positions.
Okay, here we go. So the question is, Gabby, do you think both or either were a penalty?
Well, first of all, can I say the referee?
Yes.
Like, I don't know what his problem was. Like, he was given a card for for standing still. You know, I couldn't believe what he was doing. Wanted to be the centre of attention. Shocking from the referee performance. But for me, both were penalties. I think the first one was definitely a pull. We've seen recently that penalties are given, you know, more easy now in the Premier League. That's a penalty.
This was Dan Burn on Gabriel, and he was pulling his shirt back in the box. I agree with you on that one. I think that one should have been a penalty.
I think the rules now for the second one, I feel like, yes, it would have been harsh on Newcastle, last minute penalty, but it's handball. You know, it's accidental, but the rules now, hit your hand in the box, it's a penalty. So both were penalties, and Arteta's right to have that reaction. And people don't like Arteta's reaction on the side during the game, but I love it, because I feel like Jesse Marsh, it's all for show at Leeds. But I feel like Arteta, he really is passionate about winning the Premier League, winning trophies for Arsenal, and he's not just doing it for show. He's on the side, just he can't help himself, because he's so agitated to win, you know, the Premier League for Arsenal, and he would look so frustrated after the game, didn't he? Then he had to get himself together. I saw the cameras are on him. All right, it's a draw. We'll go again next game. But I don't mind it.
The second potential potential handball situation and penalty, I didn't have as much of a problem with, only because with handballs at the moment, I can see so many different scenarios, and you can go, well, that was given, that one wasn't, and I almost don't know where we are with it now. So in a way, I can kind of understand why that one wasn't necessarily given, because when you're in that situation and you're sort of like moving in the fashion that he is, I imagine your arms are going to come out a little bit. So I had less of a problem with that one, and I'm quite happy to concede that wasn't a penalty. But the first one I kind of thought was, because I've seen so many of those where you're like,
there should be
touch him a little bit,
there should be a
penalty.
rule of like, you pull the shirt, it's a penalty.
Yeah.
Not you pull hard or you pull softly. You pull the shirt, it's a penalty. It's quite easy, and I feel like Arsenal were unfortunate not to get a penalty, one at least.
Let's get some insight from someone that knows Arsenal better than both of us, numbskulls. It's former Arsenal midfielder Adrian Clark. Good morning, Adrian.
Good morning.
Morning, numbskulls. How are you?
I was just thinking, when was the last time I used the word numbskull? That's like so ancient.
It's a bit harsh on yourself.
It is, isn't it?
Sure.
Adrian, how did you find last night? What did you think of the game?
It was a tough one, wasn't it? I think you have to respect Newcastle's game plan. Actually, that's how I came away from the game. They came with that plan to disrupt it, to kind of spoil it, make it bitty and scrappy. A few tactical fouls. They time wasted a little bit, but they also defended, I thought, magnificently as a team from front to back. You see the wingers, Joel Linton and Almiron, doubling up on Saka and Martinelli. I had to admire Eddie Howe's approach, because he's not really that kind of manager. He likes to play a bit of football where he can, but he saw this as a really tough game, and he felt that the best way to stop Arsenal was to play in that way. And it worked, because they got the goal of straw, didn't they? Arsenal huffed and puffed. I thought they played pretty well, but they just lacked a bit of inspiration, didn't they, in that final third? But I would rather give, I think, credit to Newcastle for their resilience and stubbornness, really.
What does it say for the substitutes? You look at Vieira and Marquinhos. Surely they must be so frustrated to not get a chance to come on, because sometimes fresh legs, different sort of player can change the game. But do you think he was just so adamant, Arteta, that that's his best side, no one's having a really bad game, and just trusting them?
I'm glad you brought this up, actually, because it stood out, didn't it? In a match where you're chasing a goal, Mikel Arteta didn't trust any of his attacking players on the bench. The only change he made was Tomiyasu for White. And I think this is where Arsenal are at. They don't have the depth to change things up in the second half of matches. And if they are to get caught, if they are to not win the title this season, I think it will be down to their lack of squad depth, really. So the club can make a real difference, in my opinion, this month to the team's chances. If they can bring in, I would say 3 more players are needed to beef up the squad. Definitely another striker. Maybe Mudryk, because he seems so keen on coming.
He does, doesn't he?
He's flirting outrageously, isn't he? But you love to see it if you're an Arsenal fan. Yeah. And then somebody to back up Thomas Partey, I think would also be handy. So we've got Emile Smith-Rowe coming back. He'll hopefully be fit enough to be involved against Oxford, I think. So, yeah, the fact that Mikel Arteta didn't really feel he had anyone to change up the game last night told a big story. And I think he needs a little bit of support this month.
Yeah, you might have heard us talking about the 2 penalties that Mikel Arteta felt Arsenal should have had. Starting with the first one, so the Gabriel shirt pull by Dan Burn. What did you think for that?
Yeah, yes, I think when you slow it down, you think you can absolutely give a penalty for that. At the time, I didn't really notice it, if I'm being perfectly honest. And there was a lot of that going on in both boxes. There's a lot of corners and a lot of grappling. But no, I can absolutely see why that should have been given, certainly looked at. The handball, I don't think so personally. I think if that was given against Arsenal, I'd have been quite unhappy. It was pretty close range. His arm was in a normal position, I'd say. So no, I don't feel that Arsenal were hard done by. I thought the referee had a nightmare.
Yeah,
I thought that he
What's his problem with the yellow cards? I couldn't believe it.
Too many yellow cards. And also add up the right time. Because I think it was clear for all to see that Newcastle were running down the clock from a pretty early stage. And tactically, I think that referees have got to be more aware of things like this and adjust the time accordingly. And I was really surprised there was only 5 minutes at the end. But do you know what? I was frustrated that Arsenal didn't win the game because I thought they pushed and probably deserved it. But at the same time, I've watched this game lots of times over the last 10 years at Emirates Stadium. And on a lot of occasions, Arsenal would have pushed too hard for a goal, left the back door open, made a mistake, and lost it 1-0.
Don't you think as well, Manchester City just drew with Everton at home? You know, Arsenal are playing Newcastle. They're not playing, Nottingham Forest at home and drawing. They're playing a team that are in third that a lot of teams are going to drop points against. So for me, yes, it's frustrating for Arsenal, but it's not the end of the world, is it?
No one has a perfect record at home during the course of a season. You're going to drop the odd point here and there. Look, 8 points clear. It's dreamland territory, isn't it, for Arsenal at the moment? I don't think anyone can quite believe it. It's we've definitely seen that the team are good enough to compete for the title. I still think they're just about underdogs because of City's ability to string 10 wins together. Yeah. They've done it time and time again. So I still think we're probably second favourites, but up until this point, Arsenal have been the best team in English football. And Arsenal fans are just loving it and really enjoying the ride. I just hope that the players, and I know that the supporters are feeling this way, I just hope that the players are going to enjoy being in the title mix. Not let the pressure affect them. Don't feel too much of that. Just enjoy being part of what's turning out to be a really special season.
Yeah, okay. We'll let you go, Adrian. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Adrian.
Enjoy the rest of your day. Take care. See you later. Adrian Clark there, former Arsenal midfielder. Arsenal still sitting at the top of the table at the moment. They're on 44 points. Manchester City are second. They're on 36 points. They are a point ahead of Newcastle and Manchester United, who sit third and fourth, both on 35 points.